In every plague-stricken city, they tell a different story. A ship where no one returned from quarantine, a monastery that lost its choir overnight, a crypt locked from within, an orphanage with beds gone cold, prisoners discharged to nowhere, a caravan that never arrived. Only one detail never changes. Someone saw a plague doctor before it all went silent. They call him many things because no one remembers his name. Some say he came from the Italian ports, where the first blackened ships kissed the docks. Others swear he was first seen in the mountain monasteries or on the roads where carts carried more bodies than grain. None of them can show a face. They remember instead the shape: a broad dark hat, a long leather beak, glass black eyes, a cloak slickened against the weather. They remember the smell of herbs and ash. They remember the book. The macabre physician never begs entrance. He arrives when fear has already done the knocking. In one town, he steps off a barge and offers to organize the quarantine. No more chaos, no more screaming on the docks. In another, he kneels to kiss the ring of a desperate abbot and proposes a sacred isolation beneath the altar. In a crowded ward, he lectures on intervals and air, his voice sharper than any scalpel. At a prison gate, he speaks of duty and containment. On a night road, he appears at the edge of lantern light and promises to walk with the caravan until dawn. He does not ask for gold. He asks for authority. Let me choose who is at risk. Let me mark their wrists. Let me control the doors, the keys, the lamps. Let me write the records. They agree because fear loves a man with rules. Wherever he serves, the pattern flowers. Names are written beautifully on the first page, then pulled apart into initials to protect reputations. Curtains are drawn, bells are silenced for the sake of rest. The sick and the merely frightened are moved into a crypt, a sealed ward, a back cell, a central tent. The book fills with neat columns: time, dose, breath, reaction. Words so small they almost apologize. Expose, turn, calm, cease. The plague rages outside the walls. Inside, under his care, it is something else entirely. Ship, monastery, crypt, hospital, prison, caravan. Different places, same handwriting. Survivors speak in fragments. A soft voice, a cold hand, a mask that never came off, the sense that the room belonged more to him than to the living in it. And always, when the counting is done, there is a gap between those who entered his protection and those who remain to tell the tale. This is not one case. This is his design. No ledger lists his birth. Some insist he was once a real physician, a student of Salerno or Bologna who watched too many bodies blacken and decided the problem was not death, but randomness. Others swear he began as a clerk, a man in love with lines and ink, who discovered that fear will sign anything placed in front of it. The truth is buried under too many versions, and he prefers it that way. He arrives walking, always walking. On the Ligurian coast, they remember a storm-thin stranger in a plain cloak who asked only which house held the first swell of corpses. In the Rhineland, a novice recalls a quiet guest in the monastery library, copying texts on airs and vapors long after Compline. In a French port, a dock worker remembers a bare-faced man staring too long at the quarantine flags and smiling as if someone had finally given him a language. Then, gradually, the costume appears. First the gloves, then the long dark coat, then the hat, and at last the beak, not as superstition, as instrument. Behind glass dark lenses, he is unbothered by recognition. Behind leather, his mouth can whisper different accents, different prayers, and never be pinned to one parish. The mask turns him into an office, not a man. Officials trust an office. Priests trust a ritual. Families trust anything that does not flinch at the sight of their dying. He collects small things. How many bodies a city will stack before it calls it God's will? How many before it blames foreigners? How many before it begs for rules? In that begging, he finds his invitation. I have seen what works elsewhere, he tells them, and never says that works does not mean what they think. He offers structure, marked doors, timed fumigations, lists of names. He praises discipline like a virtue, and watches as fear folds itself into his method. By the time the mask is fully part of him, he no longer travels as a refugee or a stranger. He arrives as necessity. He never forces a door. He waits until someone important opens it for him. Every place is different. His rules are the same. First, he demands a boundary, a ship's hold, a monastery crypt, a side ward, a prison infirmary, a tent ringed by wagons, any space that can be closed and called necessary. Isolation, he says, and the word sounds holy, clinical, merciful. Choose the flavor the listener needs. Second, he demands the list, names of the sick, the coughing, the exposed, the inconvenient. He copies them into his black leather book with beautiful precision. Then he crosses each one once and rewrites them as initials. To shield families from shame, he explains. No one asks why shame needs their loved ones shortened. Third, he demands obedience disguised as hygiene. Lamps low, voices down, doors latched, no one entering without his leave. He ties strips of cloth at wrists, chalks marks near beds, repositions candles, arranges pallets so movement flows according to his design. The living become pieces in an experiment they call procedure. Fourth, he introduces the interval. He teaches them to breathe on the swing of the sensor, to swallow on his word, to trust that discomfort means the treatment is working. He records dose, breath, reaction, silence. Small verbs: inhaled, held, quiet, ceased. He is not searching for a cure to save them. He is tasting the shape of control, refining how many tiny steps it takes to turn a crowd into compliant material. If anyone doubts, he leans on the plague like a crutch. Break my rules and you die of the pest, he warns. When they die under his care, they call it tragedy. When they vanish, they call it necessity. His favorite outcome is neither panic nor revolt, but the slow nod of people who have chosen to believe the numbers. It is important to him that they choose. The pest kills blindly. He prefers precision. The mask unsettles them, but the book is what does the work. It is always the same. Black leather, corners rounded from years of palms, spine creased like something that has learned to bow at the right times. No sigil on the cover. The authority sits inside. On every page, the pattern repeats. Left column, initials, stacked in obedient lines. Right column, times, minutes, hours, intervals, each digit written with a clerk's devotion. Between them, a narrow river of words, so small they almost apologize. Expose, turn, calm, repeat, ceased. In the harbor city, the initials belong to those taken down to the quarantine hold. In the monastery, to choristers led into the crypt. In the cathedral, to the faithful shuffled below the altar. In the orphanage, to children chosen for a cure. In the prison, to men pulled from cells after dark. On the road, to travelers admitted into the central tent. Different witnesses, same handwriting. It is never crowded with confession or diagnosis. No explanations, no causes, only adjustments. He is not collecting stories, he is tuning a mechanism. Sometimes a frightened clerk or novice glimpses a page and sees only discipline. No smears, no frantic additions, nothing that looks like panic. They mistake that for goodness. The macabre physician appreciates this. Terrorized hearts want to believe that anyone who writes this neatly must know what he's doing. When the work in one place is finished, when the crypt is cleared, the ward stabilized, the ship contained, the caravan lost, he never tears out pages. He closes the book, and the weight of its spine is unchanged. Not full, not empty. A device, not a diary. On several pages, at the bottom margin, there is a small square mark. Beside it, in many hands' worth of ink, always the same thing, a thin arrow pointing away. A direction to the next experiment, written by the only one who knows it, is a path. He understands something the plague does not: paperwork, hierarchy, hope. The pestilence is clumsy. It stains rich and poor alike, kicks doors in at random, leaves bodies in heaps that frighten but do not persuade. He envies nothing about its waste. What interests him is how people reshape themselves around it. Priests preach repentance. Magistrates shout orders. Physicians mumble theories. Mothers barter charms. Guard captains sharpen quarantine laws that collapse by dawn. Every voice contradicts another. The noise is enormous. He offers silence. Wherever he appears, he speaks softly and only of structure. He wears the mask like a seal on a document. Official, impersonal, above personal blame. To the clergy, he says, "I will protect the sanctity of your flock. Give me your crypt." To city leaders, "I will give you numbers instead of rumors. Give me authority over the sick." To jailers, "I will keep your men from infecting each other. Give me the infirmary wing." To families, "I will preserve your names. Let me erase them on paper first." To caravans, "I will keep the road pure. Obey my circle." He never has to drag anyone. They walk. The terror outside, black swellings, sudden fevers, neighbors collapsing, becomes his favorite accomplice. Next to that chaos, his rituals feel like shelter. His experiments hide inside the comfort of being told what to do. He does not worship the plague. He uses it as a lamp held behind him, throwing his own shadow taller. The pest will burn out, they say. 1 year, 2, it will eat all it can and then starve. He designs for longer than that. When case histories tangle, when rumors from different countries begin to rhyme, there are those who notice. A sailor mutters of a beaked doctor seen in 2 ports far apart. A dismissed sacristan swears the crypt ritual matched a story from another city. A gaunt orphan recognizes the smell of his censer on a road miles away. They whisper. They are not believed. The idea of one man threading through so much horror is somehow more offensive than the idea of God turning his face away. He learns from each place. From the ship, he learns how easily the sea can erase. From the monastery, how faith excuses discipline. From the crypt, how stone forgives missing names. From the orphanage, how quickly children vanish on paper. From the hospital, how forms can be signed for those too weak to hold a pen. From the prison, how society thanks anyone who makes prisoners disappear. From the caravan, how a circle of trust can be collapsed inward without breaking a single wheel. The book grows heavier with refinements, not remorse. When the worst years pass and bells ring for weddings more often than funerals again, people tell plague stories the way they tell wolf stories, something from before. Children repeat them by the fire, half thrilled, half safe. In some of these tales, there is mention of a doctor in black who came and went before the dying stopped. In fewer, there is a detail about initials instead of names. In almost none, there is the question that scares correctly. If the plague was blind and he was not, which one did we invite in? Some nights on roads that no longer need quarantine fires, a traveler sees a solitary figure ahead. A wide-brim hat, a long coat, the suggestion of a hooked shadow where the mouth should be. Perhaps it is a story settling in the eyes. Perhaps it is only smoke. He walks as if he has time. The pestilence was a season. The macabre physician is a habit, and habits are much harder to kill.